Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna. I am Rajarsi Dasa. Welcome to Hare Krishna today. On today's program, we would like to encourage you to do some study of some very important philosophical points for perfection in life. So we'd like to give you a study guide from the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita literally means the Song of God. So we would like to identify verses from the Gita where you can learn about three very important subject matters. One, you can learn about our relationship with God. Yes, God speaks in the Gita about this very important point, our relationship with Him. Two, we will deal with verses dealing with our duty towards God. Now, for a lot of people, it's vague, it's ambiguous. They're not clear about their own identity. They're not clear about God's identity. So now when it comes to duty towards God, they just think of God as an order supply. Yeah, give me this, give me that. They don't think of God in terms of what is really His nature, His existence, and how could I please Him and so on, or my obligation towards Him. So we will look at verses from the Gita where God is speaking about our duty, what we can do in relation to Him. And then, three, we're going to deal with some conclusion, a subject matter, that how God reciprocates with us. Yes, what is the perfection? How God favors us. How He assists us. So, if you don't have a Bhagavad Gita, please feel free to contact us. Yes, give us a call, and in this way, you can have a Bhagavad Gita and you can follow us in such programs and study for yourself. Bhagavad Gita is light, and it can dissipate the darkness that causes so much reactions or suffering in this world. We've given this example before. If the place is totally dark, pitch dark, and you go about moving very quickly, what will happen? You'll have a lot of bruises all over you, right? Yeah, blood and bruises all over. Moving quickly in the dark is a dangerous thing. A lot of reactions. Well, that's what's going on in the world today. Ignorance is synonymous with darkness. People are acting in ignorance, and a lot of bruises and blood is being shed. And we can teach you how to eliminate this by real enlightenment. Yes, in the Gita, Krishna says, Pashyanti Jnana Chakshushaha. The real seer is one who sees through the eyes of knowledge. That's the real seer. People, they all see the world, but according to the understanding, the knowledge we have, we would see why we're here, why different beings have different types of bodies, different intellect, why they enjoy, why they suffer differently. It is through the eyes of knowledge you can learn these things. So if you've got your Bhagavad Gita as it is, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, then let's move on. We're looking first at chapter 15, text 7. Very important verse. It says, Krishna says in the 7th verse of the 15th chapter, The chapter is entitled The Yoga of the Supreme Person. Yes, you get great information about God Himself, about His kingdom, about the difference between this world and that world. It's an amazing chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. The 7th verse, he says, Mama Ivangsha Jiva Loki, Jiva Bhuta Sanatan. He says that all the souls in this world, Mama Eva Angsa, they are my fragmental parts. They belong to me. But then he says, Manaha Shastan Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. Mana means the mind. So he says, but right now, the souls, although they're eternal and they belong to me, he says that they're struggling in this world. They're struggling with the 6 senses that includes the mind. Having a body with various senses and a mind, we're struggling. Think about how much people struggle to satisfy these senses. Yes. How many people spend how much time to get the eatable? They want to eat like this, they want to eat like that, or they want to go and hear, or they want to go and see this. So we are dragged by the senses in various ways. So Krishna's point in this verse is that all the souls in this world, he says, Mama Eva Angsa. Mama means me. He said they are my parts. All the souls, they belong to me. And he says they are Sanatan, eternal, without beginning, without end. That's great news. That's great news for all of us. That we are not a temporary, miserable body that's going to die just now. It's great news to know that I am without beginning, I am without end. I am eternal. So if we want to get out of this struggle, at least we should get this right. We should know our identity, that I am an eternal soul, but I have a body. It's like a driver. He's driving a white car. Doesn't mean he's a white man. That's his vehicle. He's different from the vehicle. So Krishna is saying we have to know our identity, that we are eternal and we are part of Him. Yes, but he says because of turning away from Him, the souls are struggling in this world. It's not so nice what we're doing here. We're trying to be God away from God. And that's not very good. That is resulting in a lot of problems. Let's take a look at another very important verse. It's chapter 10, text 8. Now, if you're studying Bhagavad Gita, this is a very important point. The message of the entire Bhagavad Gita is contained in a nutshell in 4 verses. And this is the first of these 4 verses. Chapter 10, text 8. Yes. Very, very deep verse. And the following ones also. But we're looking at this verse, chapter 10, text 8. Now this chapter is entitled Opulence of the Absolute. It describes really how God is the possessor of everything in existence. All the elements, the souls, this world, everything. So the verse goes like this. The Lord says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam pravartati iti matva bhajante mang buddha bhava samanvitaha. He says, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Very powerful verse. He's saying that I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Yes, this is news. What we are encountering now is the material world. Of course, we are just on one little planet, the Earth planet. This is a universe that has innumerable planets. But there are innumerable material universes. Yes, we can get all this information from God. So he's saying that aham sarvasya, that I am the source of all the material world, but the spiritual world also. He says, everything emanates from me. Yes, everything comes from him. The everything that he described earlier on in the 7th chapter, where he told Arjuna, I'm telling you everything about this phenomenal world. Everything. So he went about to enumerate all the elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether. They all fall within these categories. All kinds of gases and so on. All material elements. So he says that I am the source of all these elements. But not that alone. He says besides matter, this unconscious material energy, earth, water, fire, all these other. He said besides this is a superior energy of mind, jivas, the spirit souls, the conscious beings, who are yayedam dharyate jagat, who are exploiting the resources of this material nature. Yes, the superior energy, the conscious being, the spirit souls are trying now to control, enjoy, exploit this matter. So Krishna is saying in this verse that I am the source of everything. But then he says the wise, who knows this perfectly, engages in my devotional service and worships me with all their heart. That's the wise person. The wise person who knows the source of everything. He knows God to be the source of everything. That wise person, he does something. Yes, he does something. And obviously in relation to God. Because all the problems come about when we're in ignorance of God and we do things separate from God. But before we get into some more detail about what the wise person does or how he worships the Lord with all his heart, we're going to look a little bit more about this material energy. Because mind you, we are trapped. Yes, we are trapped in this material energy. This world, the laws of action and reaction. So if we act in ignorance, little do we know that we are sentencing ourselves to a reaction. So that's why we have to act in an enlightened state. If we are not enlightened, we perform the wrong actions and we suffer. It's just like eating. Suppose you just walk into the bushes and you're hungry. And you're seeing all types of wild fruits and berries and so on. Or you just decide, well, so what, I'm hungry. You think you have a right to just eat, right? But there could be a lot of complications. If you're in ignorance, you don't know what is edible, what is not edible. You eat the wrong thing and you poison yourself. So like that in this world, we are doing a lot of things that are bringing about a lot of reactions. Yes. So it's important that we hear something more about how this world works. So in the 7th chapter, which we just quoted, where the Lord is saying, that chapter is entitled Knowledge. Knowledge of the Absolute. So God himself is revealing information. So he says in the 14th verse of the 7th chapter, Daivihesha gunamai mama maya duratya mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. He said that this divine energy of mind, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, this goodness, passion, and ignorance. He said this divine energy of mind, consisting of these 3 modes, he said is very difficult to overcome. Yes, we're trapped in a body, and we are subjected, we are impelled to function in so many ways. And then the thing about it is when we act, then reactions come about. So he said to get out of this trap, this entanglement, he said it is very difficult. Good news though, he didn't say impossible. He didn't say impossible. But it is difficult, no doubt. But what is the way? Mameva ye prapadyante. He said by surrendering unto me, you can easily cross beyond this. By surrendering unto me. Nobody's going to get out of this cycle of birth, disease, old age, and death by his own endeavor. Nobody's going to get out. We're trapped in this world. In fact, there's a story that's told about a blind prisoner. There's this huge prison house. It's a circular prison house, right? And there's this blind prisoner inside of this prison house. Now the prison house has only one door. There's only one door to get out. So this prisoner now, he has to find his way. How? He's blind. So how you'd find his way out? By feeling. By feeling. But remember, it is a very huge prison. Yes, it's very, very big. It takes a long time to go around this circular prison. So now, just think about the difficulty. He's feeling, right? And he's going along the wall. But just when he is, and he cannot stop. So just about when he is by this doorway, what happens? He has this really bad itch. And he has to get his 2 hands because this is really unbearable. And he has to keep walking. So just then when he reached the doorway, he try to get some relief from the itch, and he passes the doorway. Now can you think about it? It's a long journey, and when he comes back again, when he's by the doorway, some miserable creature is disturbing, and he has to try to fend them off with his hands, and he misses the doorway again. Well, if there are 8,400,000 species alive, and this human form is the way to get out, and you get a human form, and you get yourself busy, preoccupied, just trying relieving itches and just brushing away flies. That's the many superfluous things we do in life, and we don't do our real business to get out. It's a dangerous situation. So when Krishna says it is very difficult to get out this world, he said, but there's one way out. Mameva ye prapadyanti. But those who surrender unto me can easily cross beyond it. Now there are many religious practices in the world. Many, many religious practices. We have to be careful. They all meant to benefit us, to gradually help us with this, that. Some people they just see religion as something to get some bread. Beg God for bread. Give me this, give me that. So religion exists on all different levels. It may create faith in people. If you get some bread, begging, yeah, God, religion, you can get, so you can take it a little more seriously. But actually, the ultimate religion is to know God and to love God. This is the ultimate religious practice. So we can't expect to surrender to someone we don't know. So this is where Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, is unique. In that God himself, he's giving detailed information about himself and everything that comes from him. He's giving information about this world, about the spiritual world. But we need to know how we are trapped by these three modes, how we are pushed around in different ways. We want to eat like this, we want to drink like this, we want to live like this. We have to learn these things from Bhagavad Gita because he says it is very difficult to understand. The intricacies of action, he says, is very difficult to understand. He says that in the 4th chapter, Transcendental Knowledge. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, you should understand what is action, what is forbidden action, and what is inaction, or activities that doesn't produce reaction. So studying the Bhagavad Gita is very, very important. It is God's words to us. He's trying to communicate. God is trying to communicate with us. So these verses are describing the subject matter of the soul's relationship. God is establishing himself as the source of everything. He says we are eternal, and if we understand our source, then he says we'll worship him with all our hearts. But now what we do? We have to do something. So we have to know the duty. But there may be obstacles on the path when we are doing our duty. So let us hear what the Lord is saying. Chapter 2, text 14 of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Matra sparshas tu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkada gama paino nityas tang titikshas bharata. He is speaking to Arjuna and saying, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. He said they arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. This world has what's called dvandvas or duality. Heat, cold, happiness, distress, fame, infamy, good, bad. Yes, the world of duality. So now, we become so absorbed and attached to this body that now whatever happens to the body, we just get absorbed in counteracting. Oh, it's too hot, or it is too cold. So if we get too absorbed in this body and the bodily contact, but we forget that we are eternal souls, and we forget what's our real business, our real duty, then we just get sidetracked trying to counteract bodily inconveniences, and we don't do our real business. So Krishna is saying, these things, they arise from sense perception. One must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Yes, this quality, if you're going to get into some spirituality, religiosity, you have to, in the beginning, be prepared to learn to tolerate dualities of this world. Otherwise, the predictions in the scriptures for this age is that people in this age, they're lazy, They're quarrelsome, misguided, unlucky, and always disturbed. So for people who are lazy and don't want to pursue the path for perfection, they get misguided. Yes, they get misguided. So, no pain, no gain. We should know that. We have to be willing, Krishna say, titikshava. We have to be prepared to tolerate. But in the next verse he says that the person who is equipoise, sama dukha sukham dhiram, he's equipoise, he's equal in happiness and distress, that is the candidate for liberation. He can perform his eternal duty towards God, establish his relationship with God, tolerate the miseries, and at the time of death, yes, the Lord says, this person becomes an inheritor of his mercy because he tolerates and he goes on performing his worship, chanting the names of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we'd like to conclude here, and this is the solution. We have to know our relationship with God, but we have to know our duties, and we have to be prepared to tolerate in order to chant the names of God and worship Him in order to attain perfection. I'm Rajarsi Dasa saying Hare Krishna, and do join us again next week for another presentation.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Krishna